I'm Allan Giacomelli. I am the Art Director of Technology and Innovation. So my role at CBC is to design and come up with concepts for all the on-air live graphics that we do on CBC television, CBC News, sports, and also come up with new technologies or expand our technologies that we already own, like touch screens, and try to incorporate them all into the graphics of CBC. And to do all that graphic design, we use VizRT, which is a real-time 3D graphics system. So you can design all your graphics and they play out live on TV in real time. There's no rendering. And it's used by many broadcasters around the world: CNN, Fox, ABC, CBS, Al Jazeera, BBC, and even in sports like ESPN and Fox Sports. So it's widely used and it's a really powerful tool. And one reason why it's powerful is we can incorporate live data into the broadcast, so into the graphic system. And we use that live data, whether it's from a third-party vendor or an Excel spreadsheet that's static, but we can take that data and manipulate the graphic in real time. And what's really cool about it is we can take the whole second screen experience and then relay it into the first screen experience, and that's done through graphics. And it's really important because you can spend all your time on that second screen, but if there's no connection to the first screen, it's pretty much toast. And so that's why we use graphics and the real-time data into the VizRT. So I'm going to show you some examples. Now, for the U.S. election, during the debates, this is our show, Power and Politics. But we took all our VizRT graphics and we layered it out into what we call a side panel, which is pretty common in all news broadcasts. And as you see, there's a little QR code on the screen. So this was the first time we ever did, we allowed people to take their smartphone, go up to the TV and scan it, which took them to a second screen app. They could vote. That vote goes into the cloud, goes all the way to the control room, and plays out into this graphic system in like under a second. And with that live data, these bar charts are able to move in real time. So within a second, they're constantly changing. And what's interesting is this type of graphic helps influence the program and the narrative of the show. As the debate started, you see Obama's at 74. But this graphic told a really interesting story about what was going on at home. Because we're allowing people to vote, Obama's percentage rate every minute was dropping, and Romney was going up. So we had two stories going on. We had the conflict between the two candidates, but then we also see what's going on at home, all in real time. And what was interesting is when the debate was over and the panelists were talking, we had the conversation about what was going on here, but then we had the conversation of what was going on at home. Why did Obama's rating drop so much? And again, we're using graphics on the first screen to help tell the story of what's going on in the second screen. And that's really important. The next step that we're going to do for Power and Politics is a thing called the debate dial. Again, shows like Evan have panelists, and at home, we're going to allow people to actually agree or disagree based on the conversation. So using your phone, you can just move a little dial, and again, we can display people's opinions live in real time. Now again, these are just kind of like your foreground graphics, but with the VizRT system, you can do a 3D environment all in real time. So you can have people at home dynamically changing how the set's going to look based upon how you want to vote. And that's a really powerful tool for us. And again, many broadcasters have it. Now again, for Over the Rainbow, we have the virtual audience meter, which is VAM, and we call it in the control room. What was interesting about this is this went through like 25 revisions. We went from, we were going to have a crystal ball appear on the set beside Darren, and it could be, the color changes based upon how people vote at home. So yellow would be an okay performance to ruby red being that was a hot performance. So near the end of the performance, we would shoot a message to the second screen, they would vote, and we would calculate all those votes, create the average, and spit into a graphic in like a few seconds. And we would do that live for every performance, for every time zone. And you could definitely see how the crystal ball was a story in itself, especially for us in the control room, because we could see, wow, the East Coast really didn't like that performance, but the West Coast love her, maybe because she's from there. So again, it's a great storytelling tool for the first screen. And because we use VizRT graphics, we went from going a crystal ball to crystal ball went over here, went everywhere, to eventually ended up in the lower third. But what's interesting is we didn't have to change the data. So the data was consistent, and I could easily just manipulate that graphic on the spot, and it's all in real time. There's no rendering. So we're not playing a clip every time. This is live and dynamic. And again, we went into sports. So last weekend was the first time we did, we launched the new second screen. And again, we have a lower third that's up. But what's interesting about sports is something's always happening. Like every play, every second, there's something new. And having the second screen and the producer, they can push a question out whenever something happens. We can easily get a reaction, and we can pop it into this graphic whenever we want, dynamically. And again, it's like a slinky, but it bounces back and forth. But again, the talent, they're like, we want to see that because we want to see how people at home are voting. And again, it starts the conversation. Yeah, we're having a conversation about the first screen, but now we're having the conversation about the people at home. And that's really key. That's basically what I do. We come up with the graphics, but I work with the shows into figuring out, how are we going to connect them together? The first screen is still a priority, but we want to complement the second screen. Usually the second screen complements the first screen, but I kind of have to reverse engineer it and figure out how we get it to air and how we get live data from external vendors and populate our graphics inside the studio. So again, that's it. Do we have any questions?